So my name is François Alliot, and I'm the director of Nerial, the studio Nerial, and but I'm mainly a game developer and game writer, really. I went into the game industry basically because I've always been interested in games as a way of writing and of expressing ideas. I didn't do games at start because I was curious about other things too, but it's always been in the back of my mind basically to come back to games at some point and do it seriously. And so I moved to London, and it was the occasion to sort of change life, and that's how I started making games for real, I would say. I was in Paris, I was working in a company, so I had like what you got in a company, like an office, like colleagues, and when I went to London and I decided to do that as an indie, I had like a year to learn how to organize myself, to organize my work, to meet people. It's very important to meet people, to carry on doing projects with other people and not just yourself, because that's I think, very limited at some point. So I had to learn all that. The first release was called Singular. So that was like a really a solo project, which is basically a mobile game where that was just built on the very nice feeling of exploding bubble paper, you know, but you know, it was on the tablet, so you popped the bubbles, and it has effects, and it was some sort of puzzle games. So that's just on that feeling I built a game, and that was during the game jam, and I was starting, so I did everything myself. And that was not very efficient. The one thing I learned from that project is how to make things happen, like how to give myself a deadline and work to it. After that, I use that a lot to sort of make my projects, like cut them the right size. I started with mobile because it's the most accessible, and sort of the expectations, I suppose, for an indie developer are a bit lower. Obviously, Reigns, for example, was more conceived as a mobile game first things, but it works on every platform, and that's very important for me, really. The story of Reigns came basically from Monty Python. Was a very good inspiration for Reigns. There's a French TV series called Camelot, which was another very important one. This idea of using Tinder as the basic of the interaction for a game creates a very interesting gap between the decision you make, which are sort of important, like on Tinder, is sort of important, and also the casual swiping left and right, which is like a king taking his decision very casually. But and the fact that you confront like the importance of your decisions, which affects all your people, this gap between that and the casualness of the mechanic makes it funny. It invites to make funny cards and funny situations, and so that's how I bring the humor in the game. I didn't want to make an humorous game at the start. It just came as a natural idea, if you want. I wrote 50 cards, then that was the prototype. I made sure it worked with people, I playtest, then 100 cards, 200 cards, 400 cards, and that's how I had my path. It was sort of quantitative. I knew I was finished when I was around 800 cards, which was my objective, and where the game was finished, actually. I never think Reigns as like a standalone game, and I prefer to think as a series, if you want, and with different thematic, different voices, different universe. So the universe of Reigns 2, Reigns of Majesty, is very different from Reigns 1. So yeah, we want to explore what we can do with that. So on Reigns 2, the biggest challenge was that I worked with Lee Alexander, who was the writer of Reigns 2, and that was the biggest challenge because I had to do this process at the start of the game, of development, to explain to Lee how to write cards, and I was very surprised because she get that very quickly, and I was surprised we could bring the game so far beyond the first one. So I'm very happy because that was a real challenge for me to sort of leave the text and not try to write the thing, but let her do her own thing. And but I'm very happy by the results. Yeah, really. We had a lot of players who were saying, well, I want to be a queen, I don't want to be a king. And it was a technical problem on Ranks 1. It was difficult to have like situations for queen and king, sort of double the amount of work I had to do. So I preferred for Ranks 1 to sort of work on the cliché of a king and leave the queen for another game. So that's why we did it, and I decided to work with Lee because she's a female writer, and so it makes more sense. I don't think I would have been able to write that one. So yeah, I don't know how to make free-to-play games. Like it's for me like a very different set of skills than mine. My set of skills is to design an experience for the player that can unsettle him, that can just bring him a bit beyond what he expects at first. And I think also there's still some space for premium games in this universe. It's very narrow. It's very difficult to sort of break through. But for experiences that are a bit genuine and new and innovative, if you really make a good game, there's all the chances you get picked by Apple, by Google also, but mainly by Apple, by Steam, and that you can get enough to actually recover your costs and more. I think it's very important to find the right publisher or the right partner. It's not necessarily a publisher. It can be an agent, it can be someone to help you. My job is not to market games, and it's a completely different job from mine. You need to get the right one for your game. And the right one for Reigns was maybe paradoxically Devolver, because it's not very kind of game normally. But they made it so that it just break beyond my expectations. So I'm very grateful for that job. Yeah. If you want to pitch your game, I think you need to be true to your own game. I pitched Reigns by saying it's a mix of Tinder and Game of Thrones, and that's it. I sent to Devolver like 3 lines. Do you want to try? And that's it. That's how I pitched the game. It's like a mail. As a designer, if you're not able to explain your game idea and your thing in a very simple way, it's maybe not that interesting to spend too much time on it. You really need to be able to convey your idea, because people, that's how people will talk about your game. They will play your game. They may understand something, okay, that's what they're gonna say. And the people who play Ranks, in the first 2 minutes, they got it. Okay, it's some sort of Tinder and Game of Thrones, and they see what you can do with that. And that's how the game sort of made a success. It's because it's a design idea you can talk with to your friends. You can share with your friends relatively easily, and yeah, it's spread very well.